All right. Welcome to the coffee break. This is the episode number 90. Thank you very much for joining as usual. And so we're getting here at Autodesk, we're getting very excited about DevCon that is coming early May. I think that's the main thing that is happening on the next month or so, no, 2 months actually, right? March and April. We have lots of good classes coming, lots of interesting things. Hope you can join us in either Munich or Boston. I believe we have one more in Asia. I keep confusing that. I think we have one in Tokyo as well, coming in June, sorry. So yeah, lots of good stuff coming, new classes, topics, and hope to see you there. But as usual, let me start with you as well. If you have any projects, questions that you're working on, anything interesting that you'd like to share. Any questions? Hope you guys are getting ready for DevCon. Anyone is planning to attend? Oh, Alex, you're going to Munich?
Yep.
Munich. Okay, cool. So I think, yeah, so here the registration page. Registration for Boston will it's right here. The Boston will be at the Boston office. Munich will be this place here that is Smart Village, Bogenhausen. And we do have, I believe we have more seats available in Munich, but Boston will be a bit smaller because of the space we have. I think it's 100, 150. So we'll be very limited because of that. So yeah, registering first is always best. Oh yeah, here you go. Tokyo in July. Also have Beijing and Seoul coming later. Oh, yeah. So Jonathan, yeah, not there yet. Yeah, we're definitely going to have everything recorded and available offline, but online later. But as always, best to have a time to meet with the team, right? If you haven't met anyone from Autodesk, that's a good chance we'll be close to lots of people. All right, what else? Any projects or questions from you? Let me stop sharing. I hate keep talking that much. There is one more thing that is interesting, in case you haven't seen it. This is some optimizations we did with the viewer. You see that how fast it is now to load models, right? So it's you see that here in this case takes, I don't know, it's a very large model, right? So 18 seconds. On the right, you see that it's take like 2 minutes, almost 3 minutes to load the same model. So we're doing lots and lots of optimizations, especially for very, very large models. And there is some sort of benchmark here. How much we are going to improve. It is improving from 18 to 16 times, depending on how big the file is. I think one interesting piece is that we're talking about Nevis files that are already very much optimized, right? So when it comes to speeding up those models, it's a bit it's hard because they are very optimized already. So it's seen that kind of performance improvements. It's great. And okay, this was tested with a Mac Pro, but no, it just gives you a reference of that work. Now you don't have to do anything to use this except be on the latest version 795, which already have all those benefits. The idea is always to improve how we manage memory, manage streaming, and those even though it's are like small improvements, like not like a significant change, still gets you lots of best results, right? Loading faster also means that it can load better on smaller device because it's streaming data more effectively. Effective. Questions or comments about this one? Are you guys using large Navisworks files as well? Very quiet this time. You guys probably need some coffee. I think this is the same video here, but just showing. Okay, let me move here. Yeah, you see there is like 3 minutes. Yeah, significant difference. Oh yeah, one thing that I keep forgetting, right? So because this is the optimization happens on both sides, view client and server. You see here there is a server storage mechanism, right? That is a bit faster. It also means that it needs to be online, right? You cannot do like offline view or anything like that because it's when you stream the data. If you have those models hosted somewhere else, or no local cache will not affect that much. Will affect something, but not that much. Yeah, I think the last on this topic is I think there is here there is a survey, right? That we're still evaluating what are the areas to optimize. I think one interesting piece is when get that complex, right? It's really about those niche cases. When talking like several gigs files, right? It's on those niche cases. So what are the formats you are working with? In most cases, we have typical buildings like this, which there are like regular shapes. But when we have like very odd shapes, non-rectangular, that's where it gets more and more complicated. So it's important to hear from you where we can improve there. If you have specific models or specific cases where you are seeing those problems, that will help us as well. So this survey here will help, and yeah, provide as much as you can so you can work on that to improve. So Tyler, how does those viewer optimizations affect many smaller models being loaded in? So are you talking about multi-model loading? You have like several small models. Yeah. Okay. I think that should improve as well, because you see that optimizations are happening on both sides, server and client, right? So it's how fast we can stream that data and how fast can we load that data. It doesn't really matter if you have one or more models, right? The viewer does support multi-model loading. The challenge there, whenever I have multi-model, is people will start then loading, doing coordination, meaning loading, several gigabyte files into the viewer, right? So that will optimize that as well. So optimization, is streaming, how fast you can load, how much memory you consume, and how much compute power you are using to do that, right? So compute power, memory, and bandwidth. So those are the three hardware pieces, right, that we have to handle. Improve client loading, it's about how you optimize memory and how you do rendering on the screen. So it doesn't really affect if you have one or more models. Yeah, interesting point. Are you doing some sort of coordination there, like loading multiple models? You're okay to open the microphone if you want. It's fine. Tyler, did you get it? Are you doing like coordination, loading multiple models? Or no? Okay, maybe not working for you. All right. Any other topics or questions, projects?
Hey, sorry about that. Can you hear me, Augusto?
Oh, yes. Hi, Tyler.
Sorry, too many headsets.
Okay,
Yeah,
sure.
I've worked on a previous project with it, and I have some coworkers who are also working on some projects that have many models, and that seems to be the part that slows up. And I had shot this to one of them and said, "Hey, check out these improvements." And he had mentioned that it doesn't necessarily affect what they're doing because they're loading a ton of smaller size models into it. But you're saying that it would speed up that process as well.
Yeah, it could, right? Potentially it could. So they have to try the latest version, 795.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see when was that released? 795, yeah, was mid-February.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is a small patch after that on, yeah, a week ago. But yeah, and they have tried with the latest version.
Okay. Will do. Thanks.
Yeah, and that's interesting, right? So whenever there's a something that is that specific to have, like you said, lots and lots of small models, right? It may be one of those edge cases that I was mentioning, right? So here is one very large model coordinated in Navis, right? But you may have, have a different scenario. So the survey will help us, give us some information about yourself, about your project, so we can try to address those cases as well. Because the more the nicher it gets, the harder it is for us to explore all those scenarios, right? So yeah, we're starting to see more and more people doing multi-model loading with more and more models. It used to be like one, two, three. Now it's getting like dozens or hundreds. So yeah. So Jonathan, if they have optimizations are happening in ACC, so the driver for those optimizations are ACC, right? So ACC is the main consumer of the viewer. So many of those improvements are because of ACC. So yes, eventually those optimizations will go into ACC. So keep in mind that there is a release inside Autodesk as well, right? So the viewer team will optimize the viewer, then the ACC will adopt, test, validate those things until they deploy into ACC, right? So we have internal teams. Just know if you think about an ecosystem, right, we have the same idea. So you have teams providing to other teams as well. So in this case, yeah, but eventually this will go to the ACC as well. They just have to test and validate on their scenarios. Good point. Oh, okay. Looking for you to do it. Send us some information, Tyler. That would be interesting. Thank you. Okay, what else? I did mention about DevCon as well, right? So it was the beginning of the break. Anything interesting happen on your projects that you like to ask questions or share? We'd like to hear from you.
Have they released a class schedule for the Boston event?
No, yet, not yet.
Okay.
So I did. So Julia, I'm not sure if you met her, Julia Meriva. She's the one working on the agenda or coordinating most of that event. Yeah, I saw a draft of that agenda, but no, should be coming soon.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, we're not planning to have the exact same classes from Boston and Munich. The main reason is just people, different locations,
Sure.
and people from Autodesk, but also people from you who are coming, right? So last DevCon last year was October, right? September. We did some event survey as well, and got what are the interesting topics for on each location, right? So that's why I'm trying to adjust a bit better to the location. So yeah, it will be slightly different. Most of the class will be the same. Yeah, so I'm still working on it, and also because it's a different venue, so number of rooms is a bit different as well.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah, should be coming shortly. I did. I did have one class that might some of the projects that I'm working on, the SDKs. So hopefully that will be one of the classes at DevCon, how to use the SDKs and how to migrate your project.
That's of course the APS SDKs, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. That's interesting. Because
Yeah.
they're missing. My feeling is that they're missing a bit of documentation. I mean, yes, you can look at the samples, but it's it's not like when you go through some of the tutorials and there's one endpoint, another endpoint, a third endpoint to get what you want. It's not the same. It's kind of a more accurate. One other thing I wanted to ask, I participated in the accelerator last week, which was great. I've managed to kind of get the webhooks up and running, which is great. But of course, then I met our IT department, and lo and behold, you're not supposed to open any ports to the world outside. And obviously, the tutorials show using ngrok and so forth. But is there any example of how to work with an AWS service or Azure server that is receiving these signals, if you like?
So just to clarify, right? So ngrok is more like how to do it locally, right? So it's only for development,
Yeah.
right? You are actually
Yeah.
opening your
Yeah.
machine to web. So that's clear,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Now the challenge with firewall for webhooks is that we are calling you, right? So that's always a problem. We calling you. Now, one of the interesting pieces that because the webhooks behave as a user call in one of your endpoints, it's HTTP as well, right? So meaning that it can be on your own website, just like a user calling it. But I do understand that in many cases there is some sort of there is a firewall before that blocking those calls. We unfortunately we don't have a allow list of IPs for webhooks. So even though there is no fixed IPs that you can allow list to call your system, right? So you really have to have that address open to the public so people can call it, right? The way to prevent abuse there is to have the signature on the webhooks. So whenever we call you, you know that it's coming from us because there is a signature. So you do that to avoid abuse on that specific endpoint. Now, if you really must, go ahead.
Yeah. Sorry, go on. No, go on.
I was just mentioning that that's the way to avoid abuse is to have that or attacks, right? Is to have the signature. But I do see that many. Let me just quickly show you the signature that I'm talking about. Just be sure that we are on the same page, right? So API reference. There is a
That's
token.
like an XDS something and a token that I can set up, right?
Yes. So the token is the way to do it, right? Because you create your token, and whenever we call you, you know that we are calling you with that token. So it helps, right? So to avoid someone else calling you that endpoint. Now, if you really cannot host that on your environment, if you host somewhere else, right? It can be anywhere else. That system will still need to call your system, right? At some point, right? So I don't know if that would really help or how you plan to do it. We don't have a sample using a specific AWS queuing system, right? Most of the samples we have are generic queuing, so we can always reuse that. It's always important to have some queuing, but the samples we have are generic queuing, not AWS or Azure specific.
Yeah. Okay. I understand. It's just a matter of explaining this to and how secure it is or not to people in charge of security, etc. But I'm sure we'll find a way.
Cool. Now, you did talk about SDKs, right? So I'm just want to show up the .NET SDKs and TypeScript. You see that TypeScript is still in beta. We have some fixes to do here. .NET is mostly stable, so that's why they are out of beta. So you did mention about documentation, right? I know that this is missing. We are working, that's our main focus right now, to get the documentation out. It's just taking some extra time because we want to make sure that the documentation accurately represents the SDKs. So we did have that mostly done, but then we realized there was some misalignment inside. So we are fixing that. That's why it's taking extra time. But we are almost done with the .NET documentation, and we'll be getting the TypeScript documentation as well. Yes, that the documentation will come with the tutorials, so it'll be easier for you to use it, right? You have the API reference, all the endpoints, all the methods, and a tutorial on how to use. The samples are a way to do it, but we'll have the complete documentation there. But one thing to keep in mind is, one thing to keep in mind is that the SDK is actually a very thin layer on top of the REST APIs. So it's essentially the same. The only thing that is different on how you use it is some names are a bit different because we're trying to make them consistent and easier to use. So some of the names are a bit different, and it may be a bit hard to find.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. Thank you. So Luis, you were asking about the design automation. Design automation will move to this group of SDKs as well. The SDK for design automation will not change, will remain as it is today. We just have to group them into a single group on this list here. But it's the same that you have today, Luis. Yeah, so the .NET SDK, the design automation is using .NET 6 because of some specifics for that SDK. All right. Any other questions or topics, projects?
Hey, Augusto. Just to make sure, gonna be Net Standard 2 the future, or gonna stay Net 6, the design automation SDK?
Design automation will remain as is using, I think it's, which one is using right now? I keep forgetting.
I know that exists a Net Standard 2 in Strange New NuGet, or I don't know what is it, but there are two versions actually.
Yeah, so that's the design automation, right? Package that you have today. We are not changing anything here because this is going on for, this package is available for a couple years now, but that one is using .NET 6 and is on version 5, sorry. The version here is just the SDK, not the API, right? So the SDK is using version 5. So that will not change.
But this gonna become Net Standard, or it's not gonna change? Because for example, if I want to using Net Framework, I cannot use this one.
Oh, I see what you mean. Okay. So there are three things, right? There is the .NET Framework, .NET Standard, and what used to be .NET Core is now just .NET, right? So this is .NET Core, or used to be Core 6, right? So .NET 6 compatibility standards, right? So there should be some, yeah, here, I guess. No. Yeah, I remember seeing a table explaining, yeah, .NET Standard, maybe. Yeah, .NET Core, yeah, .NET Standard 2, right? So you see that 6 is compatible with Standard 2, right? So standard is just a very common ground. And then if you have .NET Standard 2, all of those .NET Core are compatible because they're using the same standard, right? Same for framework. So if we're talking about three different things: .NET Standard, .NET, and .NET Framework.
Okay, yeah, that library, that design automation library, gonna stay net net 6
Yes.
or gonna become net standard?
No, will remain that standard .NET 6, which is also compatible with standard 2.0, right? But will remain.
Yeah. But that library cannot gonna be able to use outside net 6 or net core.
No. So if you go back to version 3, right, of the SDK, it was compatible with 2, but then they had to do some improvements there on some of the internal things, and they moved it up to .NET. Let's see here. When it went to 4, it was .NET 5, and when it went to 5 is .NET 6. So that SDK is evolving because of the internal usage it's having. Now, probably the question is, do you need to go back to be .NET 6, .NET Standard? What is your need? And what is the, why do you have that specific need? So then we can try to address that.
Yeah, because I'm using for a desktop application, and sometimes I need to create a desktop application for .NET Framework. So I
Lower
cannot
than
use
4.6?
this. Yeah, for 6, for example, yeah.
But 4.6 is compatible with 2, right? Oh, I see.
Yeah,
I see.
but that library cannot use it.
Yeah. Okay. Yes. Okay. Makes sense. But AutoCAD, Revit are moving to .NET 6 now as well on this next version, right?
Yeah, but I cannot use in the old versions. That's
Yes,
the,
I know.
the point.
Yeah.
But I know that exists design automation for .NET standards.
Yeah. If you go back all the way to version 3.
Or 3, yeah, makes sense. Yeah.
But then that will be missing some of the newer things on the SDK.
Okay, that's a little annoying, but okay.
Yeah, right, Jonathan, you're right. The plan is, I think, .NET 8, right? I remember there was some other people on my team are working on that one. But yeah, we are moving to a higher version of .NET in our desktop applications as well. All right. Cool. Thank you. We are almost at time. Thank you very much for joining today. Let me share. Yeah. So coming up. Yeah. So next coffee break, as usual, will be at the same time, Wednesday, March 20th. I'll be posting the recording on Twitter and on LinkedIn. Sorry, come on, surely on YouTube and sharing that as well. So yeah, thank you very much for joining, and see you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Guys, have a great day.